Thousands will descend on the steps of Melbourne Parliament this afternoon to show solidarity with Ukraine. Joining me live is Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations, Kmetj. Christina, thanks so much for coming on the program. What are we expecting in Melbourne today?
Good morning. We're expecting thousands of people to be supporting, coming out in solidarity with Australian Ukrainians, Russians, Lithuanians, Estonians, Baltic states. We don't know how many are going to come. We will have members of parliament, federal and state speaking to us. We will have leaders of faith groups who will also be leading a prayer vigil. So yes, we are expecting thousands to actually be stepping out and supporting and saying, Putin, you are a terrorist. This is state-sponsored terrorism. This must stop.
What have you been doing over the last 24 hours with regards conversations to friends and family in the Ukraine?
Speaking with friends and family who are either in Ukraine or outside of Ukraine, their stories are tragic. Some are hiding in Kyiv at the moment, where literally they have been told not to step outside from now, a few hours ago, until Monday. And if you do step outside of your apartment, you will be deemed to be supporting the Russian army. So they have been told, do not even step out of the bunkers of your apartments. They're trying to still keep eye on the food and the water that they've all put into those bunkers as well. People talk about, it may seem silly, but they talk about their pets. They say, we've left our pets with food. We've had to step away from that. They talk about our children are in one city, we're in another. They're crying. They don't know how and what they're going through at the moment. Have family that have left Lviv and have gone to smaller cities, and just pray the random targeting that Putin is doing to create this alarm amongst Ukrainians of indiscriminate bombing, let's call it, that they will not get hit. And may I say, this is what my parents escaped from at the end of during World War II. It's terrifying.
Absolutely. And look, a lot of people are starting to ponder what happens to this despot, because Putin right now is being likened to Hitler, to Stalin at his worst.
Yes, and you can see it in his eyes in the last few days as well. The change in just the anger and his focus as he self-justifies what he's doing. You can actually see a few days ago when he said that, his Duma, his parliament, had given him the green light to go ahead with the invasion and war. But yesterday, the look in his eye is satanic.
And the protests around the world, the sense of solidarity amidst what we're seeing, because I think everyone empathises and feels the horror, because they liken their lives as they see families flee these awful situations. But the solidarity is being seen all around the world, and in Russia as well, where people are putting their lives on the line because we've seen what happens to protesters in the past.
Indeed, they fall off balconies, they get poisoned, they get found hung in the forests, they just get killed on bridges. It's horrific. Or they have trumped up charges against them and they're put in jail for the rest of their lives and tortured. They are risking their lives. But if I may share, I spoke with a dear friend, Alexandra, who is in Estonia. She went there a few weeks ago to visit her daughter and grandchild. And yesterday in Tallinn, 40,000 people came out. And Tallinn has a population of 450,000. 10% of the population of Tallinn stood on the streets in solidarity with Ukraine. It's extraordinary.
And we see the president speak often, President Zelensky I'm talking about, and his messaging is very clear. The people's messaging in the Ukraine is very clear about resistance, resilience, and not giving up.
That's correct. So this morning I was also speaking to friends of mine that belong to the Ukrainian Scouting Organisation Plus, to which I'm the chair of here in Australia. We have a very active Ukrainian Scouting organisation, and they're putting out a call for raising of funds for scouts who are collecting whatever they possibly can, be that helmets or be that finances, so that they can actually buy food or buy whatever they may possibly need. The resilience of the Ukrainian people has been underestimated. We're a tough bunch. They will not give up. They are fighting. People are taking up arms. Ordinary people are taking up arms.
What do you want from the Australian government, Christina?
Well, I'm calling it out. We want more. I've been involved in a number of meetings over the last few weeks with members of the government, and look, the support has been fantastic, but it's always, oh, but will he? Or when this happens, will it happen? Or yes, we will do that last little bit, but let's just wait to see what happens in the next day or so. It's got to be called out. World, wake up. This is true. This is happening. There is a world war that is now taking place on the territory of Ukraine. The Australian government, do more, please. Our mental health as Australian Ukrainians is through the roof. We don't sleep anymore. Help us, help Ukraine, send humanitarian aid, send medical aid, help however we possibly can. If it's not troops on the ground, and we understand why that is, help. We're also asking to protect the skies. There needs to be a no-fly zone over Ukraine. As long as Russia can fly their army over Ukraine, because they have access to that fly zone, they're bombing Ukraine, and that is what they're doing. I have a friend who told me a few days ago in Kyiv, he actually found a marker. He went from high-rise building to building because he stayed in Kyiv, and he found a marker on one of the high-rise buildings just on a neighbouring apartment building.
Yeah,
this is extraordinary. What would we do in Melbourne? How people have to still throw that back onto perception of what we would do in Australia and in Melbourne.
Absolutely.
It's terrifying. The Australian government needs to do more. SWIFT has to be stopped. I know that those discussions are going on around the world, and that is on the cusp of happening. It must happen. Oligarchs, they need to be sent home. They need to be the people that are hammering on Putin's door and saying, listen, we're your friend, but I'm sorry, I just slipped into Ukrainian.
Yeah, no, Christina, I can feel and see and hear your passion, and we wish you well today in Melbourne, and you've always got a place to talk here. So on Weekend Edition, let's talk soon.
Thank you very much.